Egypt, in the grip of the mighty Sahara Desert. It is a land of rock, sand, and scorching sun. A hostile but beautiful void. It would seem nothing significant could survive in such a place. Yet Egypt holds a sparkling array of wildlife. And gave birth to one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. How can this paradox in the sands exist? The secret is something more precious than the treasures of the pharaohs, the elixir of life. Egypt holds a unique position. It is the only country to link North Africa and the Middle East, including their diverse wildlife. Bridging 2 continents and 2 seas, it has been a trading power for millennia. It has seen kingdoms flourish and dominate the region. But around 95% of its surface is desert. The average annual rainfall across the country is less than 80 millimeters a year. And most parts would be lucky to see that. So how does life survive in this blistering desert kingdom? The answer is water. But where this water comes from and how it nourishes this seemingly desolate land is a story full of myth and surprises. The oceans are the greatest source of water on Earth, covering 70% of its surface. Around 30 million years ago, Egypt was bordered by just the Mediterranean Sea. But huge tectonic forces within Egypt tore the African and Asian continents apart, creating a new sea, the Red Sea. Few freshwater sources and high evaporation rates help make it one of the most saline seas in the world. This doesn't prevent the great diversity of life in its waters. Over 10% of its fish species are found nowhere else. And it boasts large numbers of unique and beautiful corals. Some creatures here have even passed into mythology. Over 3,000 years ago, stories of mermaids began to emerge here. Many believe these were inspired by the dugong. Its alternate name of sea cow might let on that it's not the most human-like beauty. But this gentle giant is certainly graceful. Inhabiting shallow coastal waters, it feeds entirely on marine plants. Whiskers around the mouth, combined with a powerful, flexible snout, allow it to find and uproot the seagrass plants in these warm waters. The dugong plows through these underwater fields, leaving distinctive feeding furrows. Dugongs require huge amounts of seagrass. This fragile ecosystem helps oxygenate the waters and provides a nursery for young fish and other small animals. Easily mistaken for quivering seagrass are colonies of garden eels. Up to 1,000 strong, they dip and weave, picking off plankton floating past on the currents. Garden eels only display a portion of their body, their tails being rooted into a sandy burrow that they've excavated into the sea floor. This burrow is a home they may never leave, even when mating, and provides a safe haven for them to escape to when disturbed. They have nothing to fear, though, from this ocean giant. The whale shark is the world's largest fish, reaching up to 20 meters and weighing in at a staggering 34 tons. It must nourish this bulk with huge amounts of food, but it also feeds on the same tiny plankton. Even at a leisurely pace of 5 kilometers an hour, that huge mouth can draw in around 100 liters every minute. Anything above a millimeter is filtered out of this water by specialized structures called gill rakers. The beautiful markings on its skin are a unique constellation of spots, distinguishing it from any other individual. These rich waters allow life to extend onto the land. Banks of mangrove trees stretch along protected parts of the coast, yet they have some difficult problems to overcome. Mangroves must have specialized roots to filter out as much salt as they can, as seawater is toxic to most plants. Any excess in the mangrove is excreted through the leaves. Another problem is that the ground is almost always waterlogged, if not completely submerged. With its roots needing oxygen, the tree is in danger of being suffocated. To counter this, snorkel-like offshoots have also evolved, reaching above the water to draw in precious air. As the high tide recedes, a thriving community emerges. Male crabs crowd the beach, posturing with their gigantic claws. During feeding, the action of their small claw over the large looks like they're playing a fiddle, leading to their common name, the fiddler crab. Females are more modestly armed and hurriedly sift through the sand, recovering the nutrients left behind by the departing waters, discarding the groomed grains in little globules. For the males, the action is hotting up as they compete for attention. The bigger the claw and the quicker it's waved, the more impressive they will appear to onlooking females. These displays also help protect their territories by deterring rival males on the lookout for a new burrow. But battles are inevitable. Claws become gladiatorial weapons in a test of strength. This hectic world is governed by the tides, and peace descends again as the seas rise. Night brings more action to these shores. Green turtles are in the middle of an arduous expedition. These expectant mothers have dragged their bulk up the beach and must spend the night excavating a large nest to lay their eggs. As they bury them, they know this heroic effort is worth it to provide a safe place for their eggs to incubate. And after 2 months beneath the sands, there is movement. Hatchlings break free under the cover of darkness when fewer predators can find them. Drawn by their instincts, these tiny babies scramble towards the water. For them, this journey is like a marathon. As the sun rises, exhausted adults head back to the sea. Predators begin to arrive at the beach, looking for those who've got their timing wrong. And it seems only a matter of time until this little female is spotted. Only 1 in 1,000 of these young turtles is thought to make it to adulthood, so the odds are stacked against her. But an uncovered nest draws the circling birds in from across the beach and may give this hatchling a chance. Tiring in her sprint, she must push on. She has made it. Life can be abundant on these coastal borders, but the reach of these great seas is limited. Moisture drawn from these waters does not make it far. In the northeast lies the Sinai Peninsula. It is a land bridge between Africa and the Middle East, and one of the few inland areas to see significant rains. The high slopes of the Sinai Ranges can help capture this moisture, allowing life to take hold. What little water there is supports a surprising array of animals. The Egyptian cobra is the largest snake in this region, growing to just under 3 meters. In the early morning light, it keeps close to the shadows, blending into the environment. And it spotted a more flamboyant inhabitant of these slopes. The Sinai agama's bright blue coloration and push-ups are designed to attract a female. But the cobra can take advantage whilst the agama's mind is on finding a mate. If it can get close enough to strike, the agama stands no chance against a venom potent enough to kill an adult elephant. But an uninvited guest's curiosity has ruined breakfast plans. Now the cobra finds itself in danger and must rely on an impressive display of its own. Rearing up, it draws back ribs to extend and flatten the area around its neck, forming a hood. This behavior suddenly makes the cobra appear much larger and more aggressive, enough to put off an inexperienced buzzard, allowing the cobra to slink to safety. And the lucky performer to resume. Pushing further into Egypt, the amount of rainfall drops off suddenly, and a more hostile environment emerges. This is the Sahara, the great desert, and its sands can smother this land. The animals that live here have evolved some miraculous attributes to cope with these dunes. At sunrise, a horned viper must travel back to shelter if it is to avoid the heat of the day. As it slides across the sand, it leaves telltale tracks caused by an elegant technique. To prevent itself from being bogged down in the loose sand, it only grips with 2 parts of its body at a time, throwing the rest forwards in loops. Contracting and contorting its highly flexible and muscular body in this way allows it to sidewind over the dunes. Reptiles like the horned viper are cold-blooded, relying on the heat of their environment to warm their bodies so they can be active. But this means they can be more vulnerable to extreme temperatures. Sidewinding not only allows the viper to move across these soft sands, it can also prevent it from overheating by keeping as much of its body off the hot ground as possible. But a potential meal is enough to stop it in its tracks. This lizard, also known as a skink, is only just warming up in the morning sun. It's still slow and sluggish. Caught out in the open, it appears to be in big trouble. Its compact body, featuring a wedge-shaped head, slick scales, and paddle feet, are not the perfect recipe for speed on the dunes. And with no obvious place to hide, it seems doomed. But this skink is a surprise package. Its attributes allow for one of the desert's great disappearing acts. It swims through these soft sands to safety. And the viper leaves the heat of the day to this miraculous lizard. But night, with its cooler temperatures, is when most animals venture out. The lesser Egyptian jerboa spends its days in a burrow below ground. Now is the time to feed. This kangaroo-legged rodent has a hopping run that allows it to cover up to 10 kilometers a night in search of food, which includes seeds, insects, and the succulent parts of plants. Like many desert animals, it has evolved to gain all the water it needs through what it consumes. And without standing water, the jerboa has also learnt to use the desert to keep itself clean, taking baths in loose sand. This helps remove oils and clogged dirt from its fur. But it must stay alert. The night is full of dangers. A horned viper samples the air with her forked tongue. She's following the scent of this desert rodent. down and digging, this noisy burrow maintenance makes this jerboa vulnerable, as its hearing is a vital sense for detecting predators. The viper is willing to take full advantage of this opportunity. The jerboa is spooked and bounds well beyond strike range. A chance missed. But the night is still young. Preferring to ambush prey, the horned viper disappears into the sand and waits for dinner to come to her. The night holds animals that strike fear into human hearts. The scorpion. Weighing in at a few grams and barely reaching over 10 centimeters, this slender, delicate individual hardly seems dangerous. But the flexible tail is where the danger lies. Holding one of the most toxic venoms of any scorpion, so lethal it could kill a human, this is the death stalker, and it has sensed a potential victim. This solifugid is constructing a new burrow. Like many animals here, it hides from the heat of the day below ground. The solifugid is no pushover. It's armed with gigantic jaws, the largest in relation to body size of any animal in the world. Unfortunately, it may be digging its own grave. As it bulldozes the sand, it sends vibrations through the ground and the air. All this activity is like a dinner bell to the scorpion. With poor eyesight, the deathstalker needs these vibrations to hone in on its prey. This will be a titanic battle. The deathstalker struggles to keep the solifugid at claw's length. It must avoid those lethal jaws until it can deliver the fatal blow with its tail. And victory is assured. As the animals of the night retreat from the glare of the rising sun into their burrows and crevices, the life and death struggles of the night are wiped from the memoryless desert. "96% of Egypt is covered in this almost uninhabitable desert. And in its center, water precipitation is virtually non-existent. Humans have always struggled to cross these lands. Only when camels were introduced could trading routes through the Saharan sands be properly established. Blowing from the desert heartlands in the south, come the Kansin winds. They carry sand, dust, and heat, driving temperatures to extreme levels. To be caught without shelter is certain death for most. The sun and its ferocious heat is consistent. Rain is anything but. Where it has fallen, life makes full use of it. Elegant flocks of sandgrouse will take advantage of any standing water. These birds may travel 80 kilometers in search of these pools, drinking nervously, keeping an eye out for danger. Standing in the water allows for it to soak into their breast feathers. In this way, they can transport this precious cargo back to their young. These pools provide a lifeline to many in these parched lands, but to some, they mean everything. Below the water, a primeval world has been awoken. Tadpole shrimp take only weeks to mature, and then mate feverishly, as they are on a desperate schedule. Their world evaporates under the intense desert sun. And although they will perish, in the dry earth lie the eggs of the next generation. Water wasn't always so rare. Around 10,000 years ago, great rains swept into Egypt. Supporting vast grasslands and swathes of trees. But the climate changed. These waters disappeared, and the land became almost desolate. Yet somehow, in some places in this desert, trees still grow. Their secret lies in an ability to reach into the past. Those ancient rainwaters that fell thousands of years ago now rest deep below the surface, trapped in porous rock layers called aquifers. There is estimated to be over 150,000 cubic kilometers of fresh water underneath Egypt. Where these fossil waters come to the surface, they can form springs and deep pools of water called oases. Supporting both animal and human life in this wilderness. oases have allowed for small settlements in this arid land and provide vital stopovers for traders. But they are not sufficient to have supported the vast ancient kingdoms of the pharaohs. The world's great civilization was a powerhouse of agriculture. And with several million people living within its borders, huge volumes of water were required. The water that sustained these peoples was revered for its life-giving bounty. But its sources were largely a mystery to the earliest Egyptians. Thousands of miles to the south, there stretches a vast, mountainous landscape. These are the imposing Ethiopian highlands, monstrous peaks known as the Roof of Africa. And here lies one of the most important sources of Egypt's lifeblood. Small rivulets wash nutrient-rich soils from these towering plateaus. But when the African monsoon arrives, it becomes a deluge. 500 million cubic meters of water a day can pour from these lands, providing 60% of the annual waters of one of the world's greatest rivers, whose sediment-rich monsoonal waters caused the yearly replenishing floods in ancient Egypt, making agriculture possible. Merging with other tributaries from distant lands, they form the mighty Nile. The longest river in Africa, estimated at over 6,500 kilometers, it drains around 10% of the African continent. The Nile flows northwards to the Mediterranean, cutting a verdant swathe through desert lands, allowing life to explode in all its glory. Where the waters slow and spread, wetlands form. And synonymous with the Nile and the ancient civilization it supported are the beds of papyrus rushes used for making boats and writing parchment. They also create a rich habitat for wildlife. Providing plenty of prey and cover for the reed cat. A little bigger than the domesticated cat, it has a wide taste, taking rodents, birds, frogs, and even diving for fish. With long legs and a sleek body, it slips rapidly between the stalks as it hunts. It relies on sharp senses to pick out potential prey. Such as this common quail. But not all hunts are successful. And in ancient Egypt, this cat needed to be careful along the banks of the Nile, as it would have been on the menu for the river's apex predator. The Nile crocodile. Growing up to 6 meters long, it is one of the largest reptiles in the world and a truly awesome predator. Capable of catching and dismembering large prey such as wildebeest and buffalo, humans have feared, but also revered this animal. Unchanged since the time of the dinosaurs, these creatures are almost indestructible, able to live for months without eating and survive droughts in a state of suspended animation. With so much life in the Nile Valley, there are plenty of animals providing for another of Egypt's iconic creatures. The scarab. The cleaners of the animal world arrive quickly at a mound of dung. Hurriedly forming it into large balls to roll away. Ancient Egyptians believed that it was a giant scarab that was capable of rolling the huge ball of the sun across the heavens. And like the sun, the scarab's dung also disappears below the horizon. Burying it below the earth provides a safe place for their young to feed upon this larder. The scarab's emergence from the earth was a symbol of renewal and rebirth to the ancient Egyptians. The miracle of life continuing against all the odds in this desert kingdom. This desert land is unique. One of humankind's great civilizations, with all its wonder, emerged from these dunes. Along with a dizzying array of life. Water is the key to this success. Worshipped by the ancients, who were confined by the desolation surrounding them. Its miraculous presence allows life to flourish and survive, even in the burning heart of Egypt. The wonder of the sands.